Good morning and welcome to our webinar about the Research and Innovation Staff Exchange. My name is Sibylla Martinelli and I'm one of the two Swiss national contact points for the Marie Skodowska Curie Actions. Together with my colleague Isabel Spüler, I'm in charge of the Marie Skodowska Curie Actions in Switzerland. Today we will inform you about RISE, which is one of the Marie Skodowska Curie Actions. It provides funding for international and intersectoral staff exchanges within a consortium. I would like to quickly explain the setup of this live webinar. You can see the slides of the presentation on the big window, the speaker's picture in the right corner. Importantly, there is also the possibility to ask your questions during the webinar. Your questions will be answered by my colleague Isabel via the chat. We try our best to answer your questions during the webinar. However, if we miss to answer a question, you can also write us an email to msca@euresearch.ch. This webinar will be recorded and made available on our YouTube channel, so don't hesitate to re-watch it or send the link to interested colleagues. After a short general introduction, we will focus our attention on the Research and Innovation Staff Exchange, short RISE scheme. We will have a look at the different eligibility conditions you need to consider. I will also share some statistics, talk about the most important documents for you to consider, about how you can look for partners and how the submission of projects worked. Then I will have a closer look at the different parts of the proposal, and last but not least, you will get some information on what kind of support you can get and where. So before we dive into the details of the RISE funding scheme, let me start with some background information. The woman who inspired the Commission to create this funding program, Marie Curie, was convinced that science should be international. She herself was a mobile researcher. She grew up in Poland and conducted most of her influential research in France. In this slide, you can see the three different pillars involved under the European Framework Programme for Research and Innovation. The program is called Horizon 2020 and has 80 billion of euros to spend. It began in 2014 and will terminate end of next year in 2020. Marie Skodowska Curie Actions fall under the first, the so-called Excellent Science pillar. Programs in this pillar are supposed to raise the level of excellence in Europe's science base and attract world-class researchers to Europe. If you apply for any of the Marie Skodowska Curie Actions, it is wise to know the policy background that comes with this action and keep it in mind while writing your proposal. The Marie Skodowska Curie Actions have an allocated total budget of 6.2 billion euro over the 7 years of Horizon 2020. All research areas are funded with no thematic calls or priorities. They follow the so-called bottom-up approach, meaning that the topics are not defined by the European Commission and thus the applicants are free to choose a research area and topic. There is a strong focus on researchers' career development and training. A central objective of the Marie Skodowska Curie Actions is thus to enhance the career prospects of researchers all along the career path. A very central aspect is mobility, which should be intersectoral, international, and interdisciplinary. There are annual calls for proposals. There are four Marie Skodowska Curie Actions, the individual fellowships, co-fund, ITN, Innovative Training Networks, and the RISE. Today we will only look closer at the RISE scheme. So the Research and Innovation Staff Exchange. The objective of the MSCA Research and Innovation Staff Exchanges is the promotion of international and cross-sector collaboration by the exchange of research and innovation staff, and by sharing knowledge and ideas from research to market and vice versa. Tibor Navracic promoted the Research and Innovation Exchanges with a RISE project as a very powerful tool promoting creativity and entrepreneurship and helping to turn creative ideas into innovative products, services, or processes. These exchanges are instrumental in boosting the transfer of knowledge necessary to address Europe's challenges, he said. On the level of the organization, it is possible to form partnerships with leading research and innovation organizations from across the world. A RISE project can also be a first step on the Horizon 2020 funding ladder, as it could also serve as a trial period with partners for a larger Horizon 2020 application, for example. Also, it is an excellent opportunity to build on existing research collaborations. And for individuals, RISE offers the opportunity to expand their horizons, to enlarge their networks and forge collaborations with research groups and industry worldwide, to receive innovative research training, and also to develop new career opportunities as well. It is important to understand how these research and staff exchange projects work. Firstly, the RISE structure consists of participating organizations from the academic and non-academic sector based in Europe and also outside Europe. The network of organizations develops an innovative research project in an area that is significant to them. The objectives of the research project are achieved through staff secondments from one participating organization to another. The overall aim is to increase the transfer of knowledge between the network. Additionally, other activities should be scheduled amongst the network to complement the secondments and increase the transfer of knowledge, such as training events or workshops. RISE secondments involve sending staff members to other participating organizations to achieve two short-term goals of the RISE scheme. The first goal is that staff members perform tasks to achieve the objectives of the proposed research and innovation project. And the second goal includes staff members developing new research and transferable skills to boost future career opportunities through RISE action and connected networking activities. So let's have a look at the various eligibility conditions now. Participating institutions can be institutions from the academic sector, such as higher education establishments, non-profit research organizations, as well as international European interest organizations. Also, institutions from the non-academic sector can participate. So basically companies including SMEs, multinationals, and also NGOs, etc. Within a consortium, there are different roles and responsibilities. And so there are also different terms for participating organizations in the Marie Skodowska Curie Actions. The beneficiary signs the grant agreement, claims cost, and receives funding. RISE beneficiaries can only be organizations within European countries, such as member states and associated countries. They contribute directly to the RISE project and host and second staff members. Partner organizations, on the other hand, do not sign the grant agreement or claim costs directly. In a RISE project, partner organizations can only be organizations based in third countries. Like the beneficiaries, they contribute directly to the RISE project. They host secondments and second staff members. Staff members are eligible to carry out secondments provided they are working in the organization for at least 1 month before the secondment. The staff members that can carry out secondments are, for example, early stage researchers, so researchers with less than 4 years of research experience, have no PhD, experienced researchers that are researchers with more than 4 years research experience or hold a PhD, and additionally, you can also include administrative staff, managerial staff, and technical staff supporting the research and innovation activities of the proposed project. With regards to the RISE consortium, there are 3 requirements for eligibility. For the participating organizations involved in a RISE consortium, there has to be a minimum of 3 participating organizations independent of each other. For the country requirements, there has to be a minimum of 3 countries, of which at least 2 must be in different European countries, such as member states or associated countries. And for the sectoral requirements, there is a requirement for intersectoral secondments between European organizations. In order to be classified as eligible secondment and receive the associated funding, as a result, there are a number of criteria to be fulfilled. Eligible secondments are secondments between Europe and third country organizations within any sector. International secondments between organizations in Europe. Same staff member can be seconded to different hosting organizations as long as they spend at least 1 month in each organization. For example, a staff member might want to go to a company for 5 months and a third country organization for 7 months. It is okay if one organization in the consortium seconds or hosts more staff members than another participating organization, so there are no conditions of the distribution of secondments between participating organizations. And finally, there is an inbuilt return mechanism. This is another important consideration in relation to secondments. This means that after the secondment period, the exchanged staff member should be reintegrated back into the sending organization. So for the intra-European exchanges, only secondments can be funded that cross borders and sectors. But secondments within the same country or within the same sectors are not eligible. Here's an example of eligible European secondments. Secondments between European organizations which are based in member states and associated countries must be intersectoral. You see in this example that eligible secondments are between the university in Switzerland and a company in Spain, as well as between the company in Spain and the university in France, but not between the university in Switzerland and the university in France, as this would not be considered as intersectoral. Here's an example of an ineligible European secondment. In this example, there are 3 participating organizations in Europe, either based in a member state or in an associated country. Secondment between the university in Norway to the university in Germany is ineligible since they are both in the academic sector. And the secondment between the university in Germany and the company in Germany is ineligible as they are both in the same country. For secondments between participating organizations in EU member states or associated countries and organizations in third countries, the sector is irrelevant. These are the so-called international exchanges. However, here, secondments within the same or between different third countries are not eligible. I show you here an example of eligible third country secondments. Secondments between organizations in Europe and third country organizations can be between any sector. In the example here, there are 2 participating organizations in Europe, of which one is from a member state and one from an associated country, and additionally a third country academic organization from Argentina. Secondments from and to the university in Argentina are eligible. And here I show you an example of ineligible third country secondments. Secondments between 2 third countries, as in this example Canada and Argentina, are not eligible. So, given that the secondments planned are eligible, EU member states and associated countries are eligible to receive funding automatically. The funding for third countries under the RISE scheme is determined by secondments taken. This country funding eligibility is based on whether third countries are listed in the General Annex A of the relevant work program, or whether they are not listed in this General Annex A. Third countries listed in the General Annex A of the relevant work program are generally eligible to receive funding. Countries not eligible for funding are Australia, Brazil, Canada, China, India, Japan, Mexico, New Zealand, Korea, Russia, and the US. Please note that the salary of the seconded staff is not covered by the €2,100 allowance per month. This top-up allowance can be used to support travel, accommodation, and subsistence costs for the staff member during the secondment, but not to cover a salary. And there is no country correction coefficient applied. So it is the same amount independent of the country of origin and where the staff goes for secondment. The €1,800 per month for research, training and networking costs can be spent on costs of research and innovation, on consumables, laboratory costs, participation to conferences, workshops and networking activities, and others. The €700 per month for the management and indirect costs are spent for the management of the program, for the administrative organization and the implementation of the secondments, for the financial management, HR, or also legal advice. So to repeat briefly, if you are planning to participate in such a RISE action, there are a number of considerations to take into account when planning. Firstly, the consortium composition. It must meet minimum consortium requirements, and you must also identify what participating organizations are needed. You should have a clear research and innovation goal. In MSCA, there is no defined topic. However, your research must address the societal, economic, or scientific priority that is beyond the state of the art. Furthermore, you should think of the impact of your consortium collaboration. Each participating organization must bring specific know-how and expertise in the research and innovation goal being addressed. They must also offer exchanges internationally and intersectorally. And finally, you should be clear in what type of secondments are needed to achieve the research and innovation goals. You must ensure that secondments are eligible or what secondments are needed to achieve the research outputs. How many secondments are needed, who will go where, when, and for what duration. All the information I presented up to now and will present furthermore, and much more necessary and important information can be found in these two documents. It is on the one hand the Marie Skodowska Curie Actions part of the work program. This will help you to grasp the objective and expected impact of your project. In there, the policy background is set out. And you can find the work program on the Funding and Tenders portal following this link provided here. The second document you need is the RISE Guide for Applicants, which is kind of a user's manual and which can be found following the link also provided on this slide. And this is how they look, these two documents. To the left, the RISE Guide for Applicants, where you find all the information on the current call and the instructions regarding structure and content of the proposal. And to the right, the MSCA part of the work program for the 3 years, 18 to 2020, in which, among other things, the policy background is set out. On the RISE call page, you will also find a partner search section. If you scroll down, you can find both expertise requests and offers. The Net for Mobility Plus website also has an expression of interest page dedicated to partner searches for MSCA project. And also the Euresearch website, on this website there's a page dedicated to partner searches. And the last one, also the European Enterprise Network facilitates partner searches. A good idea is to activate your network and make your colleagues aware of this opportunity. For example, by taking a leaflet on RISE to your next conference, you can download it on the Net for Mobility Plus website under this link provided here. Or you can also activate your network and make your colleagues aware by sending basic RISE information and maybe an outline of your project idea to interested colleagues. All proposals for this call must be submitted electronically using the electronic submission services of the European Commission, which are accessible from the call page on the Funding and Tenders portal. To get to the call page, you have to find your way through this portal, but I provide you here the link to access the call page directly. You can start submission at any time after the call opening and before the deadline. And it is important to note that every new proposal version you upload overrides the previous one, so it is advisable to start the submission process early on. And once you started the submission, you will be able to download a rich text format version of the proposal template. Proposals should conform to this layout and to the instructions given in the guide for applicants. Examples of funded projects that might be helpful, and those can be found on Cordis. You can easily apply filters to find projects, for example, in your country or in your research area. The evaluation is done in panels of 8 scientific areas. The evaluation of the submitted projects is a peer review process, and every proposal is read by at least 3 individual experts. Within every scientific area, a ranked list will be established, and projects are funded from top of this list until the budget is exhausted. From today onward, the RISE call is open. The deadline for submission is the 7th of April 2020, so next year. In May, the evaluation of proposals will take place, and a month later, the grant preparation will be launched. This means that the applicants will be informed by the beginning of June whether the project receives funding or not. In the first year of Horizon 2020, this was in 2014, 203 proposals were submitted. The success rate was almost at 50%, as there was a fixed budget earmarked for RISE. In the year 2015, 363 proposals were submitted, and in 2016, 367, which was the highest number. Since then, the number of submitted proposals decreased. In the 2018 call, there were 275 proposals submitted, and in last year's call, 308. In the last RISE call, the 2019 call, there were 308 proposals submitted, as mentioned, and 67 made it to the main list, meaning that they were funded. This resulted in a success rate of 22%. So this is about the structure now of such a RISE proposal. There are basically 2 parts to each proposal, Part A and Part B. In Part A, the applicants will be asked for administrative details and information on the secondments. This information will be used in the evaluation and further processing of the proposal. Part A is an integral part of the proposal. In Section 1 of Part A, you need to provide general information about the proposal. Here you choose, for example, the panel and the descriptors. Also, the abstract is part of Section 1. In Section 2, you are asked to provide data on the participating organizations. For each participating organization, the coordinator should complete the table provided by the online submission system. So here the coordinator indicates the period, duration, and the destination of the outgoing secondments planned by each participating organization. Once the secondments plan of all participating organizations is encoded, a summary table indicating the number of secondments allocated to each participating organization, the global number of secondments, and the total budget requested for the action will be shown. So the budget is calculated automatically according to the information you feed it in Section 2. In Section 4, you need to fill the ethics table. And in Section 5, you will need to answer some call-specific questions. Instructions on how to complete the 5 sections in Part A can be found in the guide for applicants. And now we come to Part B. Part B contains the details of the proposed RISE project, along with the practical arrangements planned to implement them. They will be used by the independent experts to undertake their assessment. Applicants must structure their proposal according to the headings indicated in the template, which, as I mentioned, can be downloaded in rich text format from the electronic submission system. Proposals must conform to this layout and to the instructions given in the guide for applicants. And Part B must be submitted as 2 separate documents, B1 and B2. Document B1 comprises 1 page for the start page, where the proposal acronym is indicated, 1 page only for the table of content, and the actual core part of the proposals, sections 2 to 4, describing the project, can be 30 pages long. So the maximum total length for document 1 is 32 pages. The overall page limit will be strictly applied, and the applicant should therefore keep the proposal within the page limit, as experts will be strictly instructed to disregard any excess pages above the 32-page limit. Document B2 must consist of Part B, sections 5 to 8. No overall page limit will be applied to this document, but it is important to respect the instructions given per section. For example, in Section 6, a maximum of 1 page per beneficiary and half a page per third country partner organization can be used. So for the ones who would like to know a bit more about the core part of the proposal, we will have a look at the different parts now. Not in detail, but just to give you a rough idea of what information you should provide. In the first subchapter of the excellence part, research and innovation goals should be described. Also, the state of the art and how the project will go beyond it should be described, as well as the methodologies and the inter- and multidisciplinary aspects of the planned project. Gender aspects should also be addressed, and of course, only where applicable. And the question there will be, at what point down the line will your outcome affect women and men differently? Table B1 needs to be filled. Here, the title of the scientific work packages should give a good idea of the scope of the research and innovation objectives of that work package. Here, the transfer of knowledge goals should be described in 2.2. It should be described what kind of knowledge will be transferred and how this will be accomplished. It should also be described how the secondments will contribute to the transfer of knowledge, what kind of events are planned and when. It is important to consider both the secondments and the return phases. And it is important to show how the knowledge sharing will contribute to achieving the aims of the research activities described in 2.1. In the third subchapter, you should state what each partner will contribute towards achieving the research and knowledge transfer objectives, including their expertise, their contribution to networking events, and their level of participation in the secondments. Furthermore, you are asked to justify how the networking events described in 2.2 will contribute to the knowledge sharing objectives you explain here, why you have chosen these particular activities, and outline the benefits of the knowledge sharing to the participating organizations. It is a good idea to summarize the planned secondments in a secondments table, for example, to show who will be where and when. This plan can be included in the excellence section. It is important that it corresponds to the entries in Part A. Each secondment has to be well justified, and the secondments should be well balanced. In the first subchapter of the impact part, it should be described who will gain new knowledge and how. Benefits should be pointed out, as for example mutual understanding of working environment in academia and non-academia, or working outside Europe in a different research environment, for example. Researchers benefit of being exposed to other environments, which will help them to enlarge their networks, or to publish in high-impact journals, or to bring the outcome to the market, etc. The overall aim is to show an understanding of how participating in the ERISE project will help the staff to enhance their potential and also to improve their career prospects. You should make a link to EU policies, if possible, about the EU policies about research careers and employability. For example, the agenda on new skills and jobs, which can be found under this link. In this subchapter, a vision of future collaborations should be created. Plans for collaboration after the end of the project should be pointed out. EU policies to international and intersectoral collaboration, for example, the key initiatives of the Innovation Union, can be found here. This third subchapter of the impact part is about exploitation and dissemination of the result. The description of such should be as specific and detailed as possible. A clear dissemination plan should be provided. What are key target groups? How, when, and via which channel will they be reached? It should be described who will eventually benefit from the results. An example of a plan for the exploitation and dissemination of results can be found here. IP rights should be checked with the different institutions involved as well. If help is needed, the EU IP Help Desk has a lot of useful information in easy, accessible form and language. The last subchapter of the impact part is about the communication of the project activities to different target audiences. Here you should make a plan and try to phrase your key messages according to your audience. It is advisable to work with the network of the different beneficiaries and with their media offices. Check if and how the research results eventually could be of interest and of impact towards society at large, for example in Europe. Who will eventually benefit and how do you reach these people? You can use a table for the communication activities, or you can describe them in a specific chapter or combine both. And you should go into as much detail as possible. And make sure you don't confuse communication and dissemination activities. In the first subchapter of the implementation part, a work plan needs to be presented. The aim of such is to show that what you propose is indeed feasible and credible. There's a table B2 available in the template, which needs to be filled with details. As a rule of thumb, the project should have 3 to 4 scientific work packages, one each for management, dissemination, communication, and exploitation, and one for transfer of knowledge. And there are even more tables to be filled, as for example, the deliverables list and also the milestones list. Here you describe which management structure you should have, which sub-boards do you have, who reports to whom, and how are decisions taken. You outline the role of the coordinator and which kind of support you will have, for example, for administrative tasks. There's a risk table that you should fill in diligently and prepare it together with your consortium. This part should not be a duplication of the table in section 6, where you describe the participating organizations. Here you should describe how the participants have the right set of skills, expertise, so human infrastructure basically, and the right technical infrastructure, including infrastructure and support services in terms of administration, human resources and communication. If applicable, include a list in table B3D, the beneficiaries partner organizations that will participate together with other entities under capital link, and shortly describe the legal arrangements and the roles of each affiliated entity in the proposal. In this last section of the implementation part, you should describe why your consortium partners are the only and best to carry out all of the project's tasks. Describe complementarities and synergies, as well as previous experiences of the partners and why these enable them to carry out their tasks. The individual members of the consortium are described in section 6. There is no need to repeat that information in this section. So now you have a rough overview of the content of such a RISE proposal. You might as well have a lot of questions in the meantime. So in the next part of our webinar, I will show you where you can get support. The EC, as well as also the Net for Mobility Plus project, run a FAQ, frequently asked questions page, where you find answers to all sorts of questions, also concerning the RISE modalities. A very useful link is the one to the different help desks, which are accessible via the Funding and Tender portal. So these are the official help desks of the European Commission. Most useful, in my view, is the Research Inquiry Service, from which you usually get answers to your questions within very short time. And there's also the link to the National Contact Points contact details. Please contact the person working in the country where your institution is located. You can find the NCB's contact details also easily accessible on the Net for Mobility Plus web page, the dedicated contact page of this website. And for people working at Swiss institutions, you can either contact Isabel or myself. We are the ones to contact if you have questions concerning RISE or any other Marie Skodowska Curie action. Or you contact one of our network members working in your region. Euresearch is a network with offices in 10 regions all over Switzerland. The contact details of the people working in the regions, and also Isabel's and mine, can be found on our home page, on the contacts page. And with this, I would like to thank you for your attention and wish you a lovely day.